Hey everyone, welcome back to Wrapped. Each year, we count down and break down our favorite albums of the year in a multi-episode special. For 2020, we're doing a 5-episode special counting down each of our top 50 albums of the year, containing 10 episodes per person per episode for a total of 30 different albums per episode. Each album is graded using a multi-category 5 or 10-point grading scale that judges albums based on their musical composition and sonic level of quality, to their collaborative efforts or teamwork with others, to even their conceptual themes and ideas they present, and much, much more. For this year's countdown, please join us in welcoming our good friend and fellow collaborator, Adam Stansell, to Wrapped as our newest full-time host. After joining us as a featured guest last year for 2019's Album of the Year Countdown and launching his own podcast, Christian Hip Hop Culture, his expertise in certain genres of music and well-worded existential commentary led us to him officially joining Wrapped as our third host. Lastly, you can watch each episode on YouTube to see our faces and screen shares of the music we discuss. If you're listening to us on Spotify, you can hear each of our favorite songs from each album on our lists in full during the countdown to get a better understanding of the music being discussed. Okay, without further ado, let's wrap. All right, Adam, give us your number 30.
All right, so my number 30, a little bit of build up here. I actually found this guy on TikTok of all places.
100 Gex?
No. So the project is called Hologramma by a guy named Chaz Cardigan. So my TikTok is, if you've used TikTok, you know that it takes a minute to like get your TikTok catered to you and like get things that you actually want to see. And so mine is very political. And it's such a weird way to be found as an artist. But I found him because on his account, his like most viewed TikTok of all time is him singing about America being a fascist police state. He's known as but he's known as the fascist police state guy. And go check out his TikTok because it's hilarious. But about a week later, that blew up and he's like, you guys, I actually do have real music that you should go listen to because I owe my label money and you should go check it out and stream it so I can pay them back for using the studio. And so I went and checked it out, and it's this little short album called Hologramma, and it is incredible. I literally like turned it on and I was like, oh, this is not going to be anything great. It's just going to be crazy, like pop one-offs or whatever. But no, like it is very introspective. Sonically, it's very well pieced together. It's very like pop, but also like that same like 80s synth that like Lainey does really well. It's very I don't know. It's just so interestingly unique, and it caught me off guard as to how good it was. But a lot of the songs are about society in general. A lot of it's about like being a younger millennial or a older Gen Z and like becoming an adult and like figuring all that kind of stuff out. A lot of it is about coming out because he's gay, and he talks about like relationships he's been in and like them not coming out and being in those situations. And then like the one that really got me was track 6, which is called Jesus Christ, I'm Lonely. And it's actually it's directed at Jesus Christ. Like, hey, I'm lonely.
Wow.
Because it's the most like topical to the world right now to me, is like he's talking to the church and to God and saying like there's so much stuff going on, but it doesn't seem like you actually care about any of it, which is a really, it's a place that I resonate with a lot right now. But like one of the lines in that song is if Jesus was knocking on the door, would you let him in or would you build a fence to keep him out? So it's very like, I mean, honestly,
wow.
though, yeah,
that's real.
And then the chorus is like, I've been looking for you all my life, but you don't come around here anymore. It's very like maybe once upon a time in America there was a position for the church to be impactful, but right now it just isn't happening. And so it's very, from starting off track one, Everything's Wrong, which is just like everything's wrong, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's like the world's broken, but like we're alive at least, to the end of like, this is a problem that we should fix. I don't know. It's a very, I did not expect it to be as good as it was. And his vocals are incredible. He's an incredible singer. Very, very good stuff. Cover art's fire too.
Cover art is fire.
The cover art, and then he's done a music video, like one or two, I think. They're very focused, and there's a song, I think it's Kamikaze, maybe. It's about imposter syndrome, which is kind of what the whole thing is.
That could be heavy.
I know. Well, it's like all these people that are growing up and going out and to be adults and like do jobs and things. And it's like, what the fuck are we really doing? Like, I don't have any idea what's going on. And so like that concept, but it's a very good project. I listened to this thing on repeat for like a week and a half, 2 weeks.
All right. So my number 30 is Dinner Party, which consists of Terrence Martin, Robert Glasper, Ninth Wonder, and Kamasi Washington. And Kamasi Washington is one of the most insane saxophone players ever to ever do the thing. And usually he makes very like jazz in its most cacophonous form. Like his solo work and like with his band gets very quick. And I'm trying to like word it correctly and like word it with the right music words.
Was it like bebop?
Not bebop necessarily. There's like 800 different time signatures going on.
Oh,
like yeah. It is just
that interpretive-ish.
Yeah, and it's all very good, and like he just plays, and like the chemistry he has with the rest of his band is insane. But here it's really cool because he gets into, on a couple songs, he gets into a very smooth jazz kind of bag, and that's really sick. I sent this to my dad, and I was like, I hope you like this because I'm slowly gaining your music taste. And he was like, this is amazing. Because it's true. Like it's like my parents I grew up listening to jazz in the mornings and at night when I got home and in the cars going any which way until I was old enough to be like, can I plug my phone in? And then they were like, yes, but only for some things. Because they were scared of what I listened to.
Plays the hardest dubstep ever.
Dear Diary.
I mean, yeah. I think my favorite song on here is Freeze Tag. Because there's a very nice like dance that happens with all of the elements of the song. I really don't want to this is an album that I feel like everyone should experience, so I'm trying not to be too spoilersy with it. But please listen to it. Like even if you think, oh, I'm not gonna like it because it's jazz, it's for old people. No, it is really cool. I think Adam, you're really gonna like the song First Responders. It just seems to fit your personality. Like it reminds me of you and that coffee drink that you made freshman year of college. That I keep forgetting what is actually
coffee at midnight.
So I never get to make it. But man, please listen to it. It's very, very good.
Have you heard the I guess it's like the remix version of that album where they brought in other artists to do lyrics over it?
No, I haven't.
I found it somehow, but Freeze Tag has Corday on it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fire. You should I listened to it the other day and I was like, because I liked the Dinner Party project a lot. It didn't make my list.
Yeah.
But I respected it and liked it a lot. And then they did this.
I really liked it.
Thing.
I've listened to it like 4 or 5 times.
It's cool. Hit the remix because it's like taking the production of them and then giving that to other artists to platform themselves off of. It's sick.
That's sick.
All right. So my number 30 is Mama's Boy by Lainey. So this is probably one of my favorite cover arts out of any album on my list because I just mess with this image. I love a good neon sign. I love a sunset, the cowboy vibes the whole album gives off. Like, it's chef's kiss.
It's because
So
you're a Visco girl and Laney is a Visco band.
You take that back.
um
Continue.
but yeah, great cover art. The best way to summarize this album was by the lead singer. Paul posted it on Instagram where he said, like, I hope these songs like wrap around you like a like cardigan sweater in October, because that's when they released it, was in October. And like from a chilly fall like evening. And I was like, that's perfect. Like, it has this like melancholic sort of semi-existential reflection on life and love vibe to the whole thing. It's me and Adam talked about this before. It was dropped at the perfect time, October 2nd, like right when it was getting cold. So like, talk about dropping an album for the season. Genius. Yeah, I just really like this album a lot. There's just something about it that I just put it on repeat. Honestly, that's Laney for me as a whole. Like, even though their albums kind of sound a lot of similar most of the time, they just flow for me. Like, I just get tranced by them. I think they're doing hypnosis on me, to be honest with you. But that's all I'm going to say about it for now, because I know it's going to come back up again. But hit up Mama's Boy, specifically Cowboy in LA. Cowboy in LA.
I
Is that your-
apologize
is that
if I offended with the
Is that
Visco
your
comment.
is that your favorite track, Cowboy in LA?
I really like Cowboy in LA. My favorite track is actually Good Guys, though.
Oh, okay.
Good Guys is my favorite, but Cowboy in LA is the thesis statement for the whole album if you're to listen to one song.
I agree.
Right? Yeah.
I'll talk more about it later, but in addition to what you said about like the wanting it to like hug you, Paul also said that like the last album, Malibu Nights, was written for one person to listen to. Like, it was written to one person.
Right.
This album was written like, he's like, I only wanted one person to hear Malibu Nights. This one, there is not a person in existence that I don't want to hear this. Like, it was approached from like I want every single person to feel impacted by these songs. And so, I don't know, it's a different perspective of writing and stuff like that, but it's very good, and I'll talk more about it later.
Heck yeah.
All right, my 29 is Love Songs by Jordy Searcy. It's love ? Songs. He is a smaller singer-songwriter that came out of the Nashville like singer-songwriter scene with people like Dave Barnes and there was a guy that lived in that same neighborhood as him, but I've seen live and I can't remember his name right now. Matt Nathanson type ish. But he is younger. I think he's our age, maybe a little bit older. But he hasn't been super prevalent in like popular scene music of even in singer-songwriter circles. But I actually heard about him from a friend of mine that I went to high school with. She was playing a show somewhere, and she like had like knew him, and he like came and did that show with it. It was like a house show, like in 2012 or 2013. It was a long time ago. But she was like, yeah, this is my friend Jordy. He does a couple things and all this kind of stuff. He's a really cool guy. You should listen to his stuff. And so ever since then, I've kind of just been keenly, like vaguely aware of his music. Like, I don't listen to it all the time, but it's always good when it comes out. And so like this whole idea, this is one album of a couple on my list that are like, the concept of it is like it's written from different perspectives of different relationships. So like from Why Can't We Be Friends is track 1, which is about like friend zone type situations, and Rich, track 4, is about like, I hope you know that if we're together you'll never be rich, but I can give you happiness, kind of, maybe. It's just all centered around different like thoughts about relationships and love when it comes to artistry and being a musician. So I Similar to what you said, Colton, about Lane's album, like they just like flow and you can get kind of in a trance. That happened to me with this one. It's all mostly acoustic, except for Rich. Rich has more of like a more pop acoustic type sound, but it was very good. He does things with his drums, which I'll talk about this later too. But anytime any artist uses drums and they put like a stupid amount of space between their snare hits, you've got me. I'm a fan. I love it. Like if there's just a bunch of space between the drum sounds, and you can hear all the intricate like piano work in between, I'm sold. Like I'm here for it. And so that's one of the reasons I like this stuff. But it's really cool stuff.
It's a vibe. I also love the idea of question mark, like love question mark songs, and then there's 2 question marks on song titles, like
friendship,
like
love songs.
Yeah, because
it's not love songs, it's love songs.
Like what is that? How do I do this kind of thing? That's real, dude.
Yeah.
All right. So my next album is a return from a previous episode, and it is While the World Was Burning by St. John. So I love this album. I remember I was doing some yard work for my boss, and I was like just going to use that time to listen to some things, and I picked this, and I didn't know what to expect. I just saw the cover and was like, this looks cool. Because it was very Ghost Rider-y, and I have a very soft spot for Ghost Rider. Yes, the Nicolas Cage movie. Even though it was not the best, it's near and dear to me. But anyway, I just thought it was cool, and then it started going, and I got to Freedom is Priceless, and it went from being like just like another like melodic rap album to one of my favorites. Just like in that genre, because Freedom is Priceless is amazing. Just as a song, and I think it's one of the best rap songs to come out this year that like nobody like a million people have listened to it, but like nobody talks about it, and I feel like that is a travesty. And then after that I got to the Future remix of Roses, and I kind of like the original version of Roses better than the version of Roses that's on TikTok. And also Future eats this song.
I agree.
Future just did, like, this is so good from him. It was like we got glimpses of Pluto Future. And that is Future at his best. It is not at his best, because at his best was Blonde Cowboy Hat Future, but that is a different level. But just like I loved the high school reunion prom with Lil Uzi. I thought that song banged. I thought Pray For Me with Kanye. I thought both the Kanye features were excellent. He's had a lot of good features this year, because he also had one on 2 Chainz' album that was very good, and it's cool to see him like rapping and reintegrating himself back into hip hop. Quarantine Wifey with Jid, as we already talked about, is just
sheesh.
Him, just both of them just taking a beat, chopping it up, throwing it on the grill, and then dining on it. And then you just go from that into Ransom with Black and Kalani, and the same thing happened. And this one was funny because in a way I was like, well, this is going to turn into a Black and Kalani song, and St. John should go first just to get himself out the way. And that's exactly what happened. But it just also reminded me how good the chemistry between Black and Kalani is whenever they hop together, and it's great. And then I like how he included the TikTok thing at the end, because it has 1 billion streams, which is an insane number just to think about. 1 billion people,
honestly,
listening to this.
That's crazy.
But I really like this album, and I'm definitely going to continue to listen to things he puts out.
Yeah. All right, my number 29 is the greatest Coke rapper who is not, I guess, like Jay-Z, but is still very, very actively working right now. It is Alfredo by Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist. So, like, there's this magical quality with Freddie Gibbs where he's just like, let me get a producer who does dusty ass lo-fi beats and drop like a 30-minute album with them and just make it fire. Because he did the same thing with Madlib for his Pinata and whatever the other album that he did with him. And we talked about one of them last year as well. I kind of lean more into the Alchemist's production because his stuff on this is real dusty lo-fi, and I really dig that. So production was 10 out of 10 for me. As
Can
a
you
whole,
describe dusty lo-fi?
it sounds like the whole thing was produced on analog using vinyl turntables, but for hip hop, but not like scratchy, not like that show on Netflix where they were doing like DJ like static and spinning all that kind of stuff. It's just there's something about it. It feels chill, it feels calming, kind of like the
So it's
instrumental
like a beat
study
machine.
music, kind of like a beat machine. There's just something that it's very relaxing. But then it kind of juxtaposes the rapping in a sense, because like rapping can be chill, but Freddie Gibbs is at times not super chill. It's not Travis Scott, but it's not no, let's kick back either. It's in the middle. But somehow like he's just really good at being able to just put down the damn pen and just go in and let someone else, you know, do all of the stuff behind the board. Like it's kind of like the Kendrick Lamar situation where Kendrick Lamar is like, listen, all I do is write and rap. That's what I do. I don't touch the board. I don't produce that much. Like I just let other people do that shit for me. I'm gonna handle the pen game. And I have a lot of respect for artists who can just kind of understand their strengths and stay in their lane like that. And some pretty dope features on here, namely Tyler, the Creator. You know, this is a very different sound for him.
Yeah.
That was really cool. He also got Benny the Butcher and Conway, the Machine, who are 2 members of Griselda. So, and he traded features with them a lot this year too. And they add that like New York, you know, rapping like this, Rocky Marciano kind of vibe to it, as if I was eating spaghetti and watching The Godfather, but it's rap essentially. So like the whole thing is just like old school. It's fire. It also got a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album, and that is not a typical rap album they nominate. To be honest, that category this year was wild because it was not what I expected. But super easy product to listen to. 10 songs, 35 minutes, just, you know, just chill. It's a vibe. Also, the idea of Alfredo, because it's like Alfredo's white sauce, and Freddie Gibbs raps a lot about cocaine, and cocaine's white. So that's like the little tinge of concept there. I'm like, that's funny. I think it's hilarious.
All right. Excuse me. My 28, sorry. Oof. Not 38, 28. Is the live album Part 1 by Lawrence. So Lawrence, yeah. So Lawrence is really cool, like pop soul, like neo pop soul funk type group, like St. Paul and the Broken Bones, but not quite. It's a little different. But
St. Paul but pop is a good.
Yeah, like less leaning into the soul, more leaning into the pop because they have John behind them. But so they are underneath the collective of Beautiful Mind, which is proprietary by John Bellion. And if you know me or you've ever heard me talk about music, you know that I love John Bellion. He's my number 1 artist, probably of all time. But this album includes a lot of stuff from a lot of different projects of theirs, including one unreleased song that, well, it was unreleased before they came out with it, but after they dropped this, then they dropped the recorded version. But it is really cool because I think that they're so much better live than they are in the studio. I've seen them live on tour with John 2 years ago was insane. Like I had not really heard of them or listened to them a ton since then or before then. And they are crazy live. It's a brother and sister that are like the leads, Gracie and Clyde Lawrence. The whole band is Clyde's like brainchild because he writes most of the music parts of things, but Gracie does a lot of the lyrics and has a crazy female crooner voice. It's insane. But their
They were supposed to come to
instrumentation.
Birmingham, but COVID happened.
Yeah, no, dude. But their instrumentation and their live performance with horns and their drum sounds and everything are just so crazy. And it helps that most of their recent stuff, at least, has been co-signed and partially produced by John Billion. So he comes in with these crazy ideas of instrumentation because he can just like hear things in his head and comes up with beats and stuff off the dome just almost effortlessly. But I'm glad that they have this out there in their catalog because I feel a lot of people would not recognize them as being as good as they are if they didn't have live stuff out because they succeed and like really show who they are in the live performance. I don't know. I love Lawrence and I love all their stuff. They haven't put out a like project in a couple years. I think 2018 is when Living Room came out. But this is a great holdover. That doesn't count.
I forgot that they did this.
Me too.
That's crazy.
Clyde wrote all the instrumentation for that.
Noel on Disney Plus, one of the first like things they dropped with
What did you just call it?
No, sorry, I said no. Noel.
Noel.
I'm looking at this Christmas.
No.
I think it's called.
You said Noel.
I've been watching the Great British Baking Show a lot, and there's the one host on there whose name is Noel. So I think I'm just kind of out of practice.
But no, he wrote all that, and he did a couple of featured.
This thing is long. This is a full like movie.
It's like he scored it, dude.
That's insane. That's
so
honestly
then
insane.
So Living Room was the project that came out. It came out in 2018.
That's cool.
But they have this. They do the same thing that I mentioned last episode with Recent Rumors. They have this like very mundane life writing style. Like the song "Do You Want to Do Nothing with Me" is literally like we're in a relationship and like I love the fact that we can just do nothing and be okay with it. Like
it feels like a part 2 to Today I Don't Want to Do Anything by Bruno Mars.
I mean, like the key mark or the key line of that song is literally like, "You put on your finest sweatpants and I'll order us pad thai." Like door dashing the food so we can watch Netflix and wake up and it still be playing. Like that vibe, just literally doing nothing.
Which is a total like 2020 vibe.
Yeah,
sure.
But that song came out in 2018. That's what's so wild. Is like it's so like repeatable and current, even though it didn't come out in current circumstance. But Lawrence is an incredible band. Listen to this album to get the live performance, but then go back and listen to their other catalogs and go find their live performances. There's a performance of the Heartburn song that they did in like a studio, like a live NPR Tiny Desk type thing, and it is crazy because they do like a 8-minute instrumental interlude that's not in the recorded version, like where they just let their horn players go off, and it's crazy. It's so good.
All right, so my next album is my first country-ish entry into my top 50 albums, and it is Gaslighter by the Chicks. So I loved this album, and this album was thrust upon me by numerous people, and they were like, "You should listen to this because you will really like it." And I was like, it's the Dixie Chicks. I think I'm okay. I think my 2020 will be fine if I don't listen to this. And I was like, not to say that I think it was going to be bad, because I saw everybody that listened to it was loving it. And I was like, good for them. But I didn't really care. And I was like, all right, so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to listen to it just to get everybody to tell me to shut up. And I listened to it and I liked it a lot, actually. And it felt cool. It was a very easy listen, which I didn't expect it to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more aggressive. I enjoyed how they kind of blended some of the genres together and took elements from like pop and kind of leaned into that bag while they also kind of stuck to their roots a little bit but showed maturity. And I really enjoyed it. My favorite song from this was March March, which is, in my opinion, the best example of them kind of taking multiple genres and kind of alluding to putting them together. So that's Gaslighter by the Chicks, and I thought it was really good, and I'm enjoying it.
All right, my number 28 is, I guess it's RTJ 4, but Run the Jewels 4 by Run the Jewels. So this is kind of in the similar vein, I think, to Alfredo, where you have these artists who are a little bit older for your typical rapper. These are people like in their 30s, and they make a sound that is a little bit more lyrical leaning and not so much a vibe leaning. That said, though, Run the Jewels being a two-part duo with LP and Killer Mike. I mean, LP, he can rap like really well, but also that man can produce like nobody's business, and his production is always fire. And they've been at it for a minute, doing all kinds of other Run the Jewels and whatnot. And this is a project that came out like at the perfect time, right? They didn't know on June 3rd that like there would be a resurrection of the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020. And so they just had this album and they were like, F it, we're going to drop it early. And they dropped it a couple days early because you have like Walking in the Snow and all these different tracks that are just talking about a lot of political, a lot of racial things. And I should say too, like Killer Mike is black and LP, he's a white dude. So you have like, you know, a white person, a black person kind of seeing it from two perspectives, but they're on the same side here about just like, you know, gotta save humanity. So it was kind of creepy how timely this album was, that they kind of fell into that. And I am honestly shocked this wasn't nominated for Rap Album of the Year.
Me too, dude.
Because I felt like it fit that category.
One.
Yeah, I felt like, especially too with them choosing other rap albums that were by, as I mentioned, older artists in the space, except for D-Smoke, but Nas, and I just mentioned Freddie Gibbs and Royce the 5'9". Like, I was shocked that this didn't make a placement on there. That said, it doesn't matter, though, because this had a lot of great social and critical fan reception as a whole.
I did think this was better than Nas's album.
Oh, I agree. I listened to King's Disease by Nas. I really liked that album a lot. It didn't make my list, though. It was a couple spots away from 50. So this is like 25 spots higher than that for me. That's why I think that should have been nominated.
Walking in the Snow is better than Nas's album.
Yeah, Walking in the Snow is crazy. Also, shout out to the fact they got Pharrell Williams and Zach De La Rocha. Like, dude, they worked with him before. But like,
I was trying not to. I was like, I'm holding my thoughts on that because I have this album like, if not top 10, like the end of top 20.
Yeah.
So like, but that song
is
all these slave masters posing on your dollar.
Yeah, there's a lot of great lines in here. I also just like the idea they continued the concept of RTJ number something. And it always has an intro and then an outro. Like it's ending. It's like, that is the end of the episode. Like this like 20s kind of cartoon vibe. Yeah. Super cool.
You know, that's ASAP Ferg.
Yo, that's why he's the uncredited vocals on Genius. I was wondering where he was at. Okay, that makes sense then. That's cool. But yeah, this is a great rap album for any of my rap fans out there, my hip hop heads out there, my old school leaning fans out there, maybe not listening to trap, but you still want some bounce. Hit up some Run the Jewels, man. Get schooled.
They got a hell of a feature out of 2 Chainz.
Yeah, 2 Chainz bodied.
2 Chainz. Man, I love 2 Chainz.
Neck taller than a giraffe.
I know.
Cataracts.
Like that's up there. That's up there with slant rhymes. Like T-Pain has one of the best slant rhymes of all time, with Mansion and Wisconsin. But like 2 Chainz is up there too. Anyway, I know you forgot, but
Wisconsin.
My number 27 is Quarantine Music by Joey Vantes, which is another rap album here. A little bit more new age rap, but Joey Vantes is a independent artist in the CHH scene. Very unique voice and delivery, very unique production style, at least in that genre specifically. And this EP / album has been reiterated like 4 times in different like versions and scenarios. So I'm basing my review off of the first one here, which because each version adds and takes things away, and so like there are different versions you could go listen to, but I would start with this one because if you're gonna listen to one song or I would say 2 songs, Statement, which we reviewed Statement on CHHC a couple weeks, or I say when it came out back in the spring. But this thing, bro, like bars, we talked about John Keith 2 episodes ago on reviewing Anti-Hero. And like this his verse in this song is like better than majority of Anti-Hero, I would say. Because John Keith killed this feature. Aaron Cole killed that feature. No Big Deal killed that feature. Joey Vantes killed his part. Brown Boy 2 with Paris and Aha is incredible because of the featured artist and his ability to just deliver things that anybody can flow on. And then shout out to him having his daughter featured on the song Close, which is insane, that she like does so well with that. But Joey is probably one of the hardest working people in the game in CHH or in CHH as a genre, because he put this out. He had put a previous EP out. He put out the different iterations of this thing. Like it almost felt like they were like every week there was something being changed to Quarantine Music and added. And then he has another project that I'm going to talk about in a little bit that is also something different. So like right now, if you're on video and you're watching the screen, you can see the Quarantine Music Deluxe Edition. It goes from 6 to 12 songs, and they add a ton of stuff and they take away some things. Like it's insane, honestly. Just the amount of work ethic that he had throughout quarantine and throughout everything to put out consistent music and to put out like new things and try and be experimental and get these features from people. Like I don't know if he had these things recorded beforehand or what, but it's crazy how good it is for the situation that we've found ourselves in.
Very timely music, man. Timely.
Honestly, I mean, it's insane, but super cool stuff. Joey's up there for me as far as CHH artists go.
Yeah, for sure.
I could definitely go for a Paris, Aha, and Joey tape.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, 100%.
My next album is Detroit 2 by Big Sean. So I really enjoyed this, and not having listened to a ton of Big Sean projects all the way through because it's Big Sean. I think this is my favorite of his. I don't think any of these songs are better than his song with Eminem from his last album. But I did really enjoy Guard Your Heart with Anderson .Paak, and I did really enjoy the Friday Night Cypher with every rapper ever. Like there's so many people. I'm not gonna list them all.
There's like 10 people on there.
But I love how, despite everything, Eminem still goes last.
Yeah, I know, right?
He has to, because he said so many words that I'm sure most of those people had never heard before. I was like, for a while, I was really high on Lithuania on this project, but then I realized that it felt like a Travis Scott song that Big Sean just happened to be on.
That's fair.
That just kind of found its way onto this album. And so that kind of took me off of that. But I enjoy this album overall. I enjoyed Ty Dolla $ign mediating their relationship on Body Language. And so yeah, that was my thoughts on this one too.
Can we talk about how on the beat for Friday Night Cypher, it sounds like they are legit hitting a trash can lid.
Yes.
Like it literally sounds like a trash can lid. And I love it.
Oh,
It's
amazing.
It's a sampled it's the Neptunes beat. I forget what song that beat was used for. It was for Clips, I think, where they hit the desk. Dum 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 dum. I forget what song that was for, but it's an old deep cut from the Neptunes. Where they did hit a desk to make that beat.
Also, I think even though Eminem is on that song and he did a really good job, I think Sada Baby killed it the hardest. I'll say it.
Sada Baby did go in.
Sada Baby killed that song. He didn't even have that much of a verse, but it was so good.
Shauna M had the biggest verses.
Yeah. But Royce's was pretty long too.
I forgot Royce was on there.
Yeah, Royce had a pretty, and his feature was good too. His verse was good.
I think Royce was the first rapper I heard ever out rap Eminem on his own song.
Royce is good, honestly.
Yeah, I mean Royce Bodies
from Bad Meets Evil, like their big single. I thought Royce out raps Eminem on that. But anyway, we can move on now.
All right, my number 27 is another project between just a rapper and a producer just getting together and them staying in their own lanes. But it is Unlocked by Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats. Honestly, I should have talked about this with Freddie Gibbs earlier, with the idea that recently in the past 2 or 3 years, there's been a large growth of doing small, short albums between a rapper just grabbing a producer and saying, hey, you're going to produce the entire thing. No one else gets to touch it but you. And then just going out on the collaboration. We saw a lot of that this year with different members of Griselda specifically. And I just mentioned Freddie as well. But Denzel did his own thing. It's interesting because he's a bit younger. He's part of the whole new school rappers. And I really, really mess with Denzel. And I also mess with Kenny Beats because I think he's hilarious and he makes great beats. But as far as like a packaging standpoint, fire cover art, this great track list naming where the whole idea is that they made this project and then one of them leaked it by accident and they're blaming each other for leaking it. And they made a full-on 25-minute short film that had music videos for each of the songs with a story, but each song,
it was really cool.
Right? It would take them into a different style of animation. So there was a black and white one. There was an anime style one. There was a 2-bit video game style one. There was so cool. And then at the ends, it's said to be continued. So there's supposedly going to be an Unlocked 2 from them that will conclude the story. So it's kind of like you have the EP album, but then you also have the short film. So from a marketing standpoint, 10 out of 10 for me. So cool. Also just great collaboration, also 10 out of 10 just because Kenny's beats are fire and Denzel, I mean, he just bodied them. He really went on diet. Man went from chill bars to becoming DMX in 0.5 seconds. Just out of nowhere.
And it was so smooth.
I mean, he's an incredible young talent. And this was a cool album. While he's working on his next overall conceptual piece, it was nice to have this to hold us over. And it's nice that this was basically Lucy's, but he didn't treat them like Lucy's. He treated them with the respect they deserved because he knew his fans were going to eat it up. So yeah,
it flowed really well.
It flowed really well. It moved really, really quickly. So hit up Unlocked, but go to YouTube and look up the short film for it because it's really, really cool. And it's a lot into Denzel's creative mind of he's a dork. He likes anime. So he basically took that and put it with his music. And I think that's really cool.
Cool. All right. My 26 is Love Goes by Sam Smith. It's the first Sam Smith project in a hot minute.
Yeah, right? It's 3 years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm not the biggest Sam Smith fan, and so I don't want to say too much about the album because I don't want it to detract from how good it is. But I only listened to this a couple of times, maybe if like 2 or 3 times. Maybe if I listened to it more, then I would think differently. But it's very good. Like it is a artistically, musically, lyrically, vocally very good album, which is why it's as high as it is. I didn't necessarily love it, personal taste wise, but I think that it is really, really cool. I love his sound on a couple of these songs, like "Dance Till You Love Someone Else" is probably my favorite song. It's very like reminiscent of like Whitney dance vibes, like dance with somebody, and maybe that's kind of the step he was going for with like the theme of like "Dance Till You Love Someone Else." Oh, I want to dance with somebody. Like it had that, like those big '80s like room filling drums and like very happy, uplifting chord progressions and all of that fun stuff. Super cool features too. I mean, he's got Demi on a song. He's got Calvin Harris. He's got Labyrinth. Yeah. It's just a cool album. I mean, I don't want to say too much because I don't know that I'm probably the best person to commentate too much on this album. But I really liked it, and maybe if I'd listened to it more, it would sit higher for me. But Sam Smith he's one of those artists that I respect more than I love to listen to. Like his style he's very good at what he does. So
yeah, for sure. He doesn't make bad music. Like
not at all.
Just not a thing.
That's
also,
one of the best Bond theme songs ever.
You stole it. I was really about to say it. I was like, he still has my favorite James Bond song. Like, still bodies to this day. Writings on the wall.
And that video, when he just stares into your soul at the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, when they just stare into your soul at the end. Sorry.
Oh yeah, true.
Pronounce. All right. So my number 26 is "Free Your Mind" by Big Gigantic. So Big Gigantic, if you don't know, is an electronic music duo. Consists of two guys, and it's a drummer and a saxophone player. And I thought this album was probably my favorite from theirs musically, because it contains a much better blend of realness and EDM. They also put out one of the best rap songs, with Saint Lucia, and with Felly. This song is phenomenal. It's one of the more chill songs that they've made. It's definitely would fit well on their like winter chill mixes. This tour was also in 3D. Like when you walked in and like got into the venue, they would hand you a pair of 3D glasses.
Wait, really?
Like, tell you to put them on before their set started, and
that's dope.
Would just pop out. Yeah, that's really cool.
It's insane.
The title track of this album, "Free Your Mind," it's my second favorite song right after Saint Lucia, but it features Jennifer Hartswick, who is a not necessarily Southern rock, but like Southern rock jam band singer, who just has one of the most like powerful voices ever. Like she's up there with like Brittany Howard, and like just like there's so much soul contained in her voice. It's incredible, and that song just goes really hard. And it's has a lot of very interesting sound design elements in it as well. So definitely listen to this if you just need a nice like throwback in it. It's a very summertime album, so in this time where it's very cold, and if you're like me and don't go outside anymore, this is a very nice thing to take you back to the good times of warmth and feeling comfortable outside.
Who needs warmth?
Me.
Also, I spied a Ash feature on that album, which I'll talk about her in a little bit. But cool.
Oh,
cool person.
All right, my number 26 is "Heaven or Hell" by Don Toliver, who gets my spot for like the personal freshman rapper, I guess. He's not really a rapper of the year. Him and Jack Harlow and Chica, those are my three freshmen for the year. But Don Toliver is a part of Jack Boys. He signs to Cactus Jack record labels, which is Travis Scott's record label. So he's Travis Scott's protege. As you can see, he's featured on here. He first popped up for me, I guess everyone too, on Astroworld, because he's on a song called Can't Say on Astroworld from 2018. And this is his like debut project. He has another project called Donnie Womack that's pretty cool, but this was his real, like, hey guys, like, I've kind of established myself and I'm arriving on the scene. And I really mess with this project. There's just something about his voice, man. I mean, he's popping on TikTok now with the whole Lemonade song, codeine thing that everyone's like playing as a sample. Like, he just be different. Yeah, exactly. He'd just be different. I really love the artwork on this one. There's a light concept of heaven or hell that I think he could have pushed a little bit more, but it's this idea of like fear and loathing in Las Vegas. That's cool. And all the songs like really go for me, but I really like what made me just pop on this album was Can't Feel My Legs. A song called Can't Feel My Legs, track 6. Speaking earlier to Adam mentioned a couple of slopped and chopped not slopped remixes for albums on the last episode, but he was the first one I noticed that did something like that this year. He did a chop not slop remix from DJ Candlestick and OG Ron C. Also, like, he's straight up from Houston. Like, this is where, like, he's an artist who his sound is very influenced by like DJ Screw and all that stuff. And I really mess with this chop not slop because I'm really not kind of into that much, but like I mess with it. There's a lot of songs on here that they remixed that I was like, this is good. So sometimes I'm in a mood for normal Don. Sometimes I want the chop slop Don. So I'd be kind of curious if he combined the two of those sounds on his next body of work. But as a whole, everyone should hit it up. It's not that long. It's 36 minutes, 12 songs. And I gave this a 9.1 because,
wow,
yeah, it impressed me. I'm into it. It's
also,
tight.
Shout out to the 2/3 of Migos feature down there.
Yeah, so that song with Offset and Quavo, Had Enough, was actually initially on the Jack Boys EP from last December, and then it got cut, copy, pasted here. I like this song. It's not one of the strongest, though, from this project, in my opinion, but as a whole, like, Don is just very different. He has a very unique voice. I think whatever he does next, people are gonna like really clamor to him as far as like a popularity base goes.
That's dope. Why do you think they didn't put Takeoff on there?
Sometimes to be happening. Sometimes he can't make it. Like the whole way back to the whole thing where it's like, oh, Takeoff, you got left off Bad and Bougie. He's like, I didn't get left off Bad and Bougie. Like, I just didn't fit on it, or I wasn't there that day at the studio. Like,
yeah, he wasn't there.
Takeoff also seems to be very independent and just is like, so where was Takeoff? I don't know. He was probably like asleep in Atlanta, and we was in Houston just recording. Like,
shout out Takeoff, dude.
Shout out Takeoff, man. Best Migo.
All right. My 25th album is Supercuts by Jeremy Zucker, which is more of an EP because I do have a actual album of his later on the list. But Supercuts is, I love the name of this thing because yes, there is a track called Supercuts, but I also love that this is like a couple of his singles that he's put out. So it's like the cuts that were super that he puts onto an EP. I just love that idea. The cover art's fire, very like 90s aesthetic with the faded
frosted tips.
The frosted tips and the faded rainbow Supercuts, like it's on an old tube TV. But he's got a couple of really cool songs. Come Through is on here, which Come Through is probably like his most well-known song. And Supercuts, the title track, is probably the best one in my opinion. And it's, again, this is kind of the vibe that I really rocked with this year some of the time, but it's just this like this one, in contrast to his other album, which I'll talk about later, this one is very like mundane, like daily experience type stuff. Like Supercuts, literally it's the vocal of the song is like, we can't really be in a relationship because we might break up, and then I might run into your mom at Supercuts and it would be awkward. Like that's literally the thought process of the song. And then Come Through is like, I've been like tripping out trying to like focus and get stuff done. I'm like on my 18th cup of coffee, but I just can't do it. Can you just come over so I can just not worry about it right now? Like that's the whole point. So it's a lot less introspective than I think some other stuff on my list is. But the vibe of the instrumentation and stuff, I really like his production style, and he does do most of his own production. I really like his style. It's very like a more vocal focused John Bellion type stuff, less focus on like rap and beats, and more focus on like synths and stuff like that. So I really rock with it. The only reason this isn't higher is because it's not long enough, and his other project is higher, so that explains it. But yeah, Supercuts, Jeremy Zucker, very good stuff.
Nice. All right, so my number 25 is Everything Means Nothing by Black Bear. So this is a return to this album for this year's list. Adam mentioned it earlier, and like I said with his, just to kind of, so I don't have to go back and re-explain all of the songs again. I think that this was the poppy side of the Dead Roses era, like songs like Ain't Trippin', just things that would work very well. I think every single song on here would work very well on the radio. As we see, like Hot Girl Bummer is working very well on the radio, as it was on the radio all summer and most of last year. I will say I'm a little hurt we never got the Megan Thee Stallion remix of this, because that would have been incredible to get her to just destroy this, because that would be, just to think of the things she could say just to take apart this song, I think that'd be great. I don't like how it started with Hot Girl Bummer, though. I think
that's fair.
I think like he put Make Daddy Proud of You at the end of Digital Drug Lord. I think this should have been at the end, because like, yes, everybody knows it, so it kind of been like here is a treat for making it through this album. It's like Red Jumpsuit Apparatus having Untitled track at the end of their big debut. It's just like another gift. So I feel like that could have been like this kind of gift. I feel conflicted because I enjoy Black Bear, like being happy and making like poppier music, but my favorite form of Black Bear is like Cashmere Noose and Help Black Bear, where we were literally worried about his like mental health. So if he could be in a good mental health spot and like make really like angsty music again, that would be lit. But that being said, I thought this was very good. I think there was touches of all of the previous albums in here, but I felt like it was the closest we've gotten to him going back to Dead Roses that we'll probably ever get, honestly, because I think he is almost done doing the poppy stuff, or like the old voice change stuff.
Yeah, something I didn't mention. The last song, Smile Again, is like probably the most vulnerable I've ever heard him. Honestly, like
I think it's one of them.
Yeah, like just this point of like, I don't know, like if I'll ever be able to smile again. I don't know. I really like that song as an ending. I think like putting Hot Girl Bummer at the ending would have messed that up. Like I think Hot Girl Bummer could have found a place like in the middle somewhere, but like I think if Smile Again didn't end the album, it wouldn't have the same impact. I don't think.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. I agree. We're gonna
I just feel like, just like his. I used to really enjoy. Like I enjoy how he ends his albums, and like I enjoyed Smile Again at the end of his album, but I don't think any ending is gonna match the just news reports from Dead Roses.
Yeah.
Just because I think that's iconic. Just hearing the news report that inspired the title, which is just somebody sending someone else like 10 dead roses at the end of their relationship, which is honestly super petty and kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that, and I would love for him to one day do like another Salt type thing, but it be songs that would have made Help if but he made them in 2020 or 2021. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But I think he has too many young fans that he knows of now to go back to that sound, because that was not the most appropriate time for him lyrically. And he's still not necessarily an appropriate, like, clean singer.
Yeah.
That was a different kind of, I don't think he would put out different hoes today.
Hey, man, something happens to you when you have a kid, so.
This is true.
Oh, man.
All right. So
Produced by Mod Son.
Produced by
Still a classic.
My number 25 is, recently talked about this in the last iteration probably of it, is 3:15:20 by Childish Gambino. So we talked about this before, as I mentioned. The main thing I just kind of want to say about it is I feel like there's something, just gems of what it's actually about are hidden through here. And we won't know for a long time. I mean, that's the way it was because of the internet. You had to go buy the vinyl or go online and find his blog to read the screenplay, because the music was like a quarter of the project in all actuality. So if there's something he's not telling us. I did read an interview with him where he said he wasn't like essentially making this album. He was it was songs he had sitting around that he had all made with like a couple producers, and he was listening to it in what he calls the temple, which is his like studio creative space during quarantine. And he's like, these songs are giving me a lot of like therapy. I feel like I should release them as like a gift to listeners to also give them therapy. Which was a very interesting thought. Like, it wasn't intentional. He was just like, I think that's why there's no cover art. That's why there's timestamps instead of actual names of songs, except for algorithm and time. He just had them around in a package and he released it. So that's why, on one hand, I'm like, maybe it's just he didn't feel like adding additives, or he's Donald Glover and there's a bunch of hidden meaning here and we won't know it for a long, long time.
Or ever.
I just finished listening to my favorite podcast ever, Dissect, did an entire season on Because the Internet. And I've spent a lot of time with that album. I have the vinyl. I have the screenplay. I've read it. I've watched Atlanta numerous times. And a lot of that album went over my head. I did not catch some of the stuff that he was talking about in it or that he was referring to story-wise. So that's why I feel like with this, I'm like, this music is great. I love it. But there's a missing piece. In like 10 years from now, we're going to be like, 3:15:20 was the greatest album in 2020. And we didn't even know it just because that's who he is. I will say I really love 12:38. 21 gave us one of his best features ever on that song, in my opinion. Like, just some of the lyricism was hilarious. And yeah, I gave us as a whole a 9.1. Actually, that's a lie. 9.2. It's pretty high up there for me. And as far as his discography goes, my favorite project is actually Stone Mountain / Kauai. But I think his best project is Because the Internet. And I think this is my second rank for best, but third for favorite. I do like this a little bit more than the last project, Awaken My Love. But Awaken My Love has mad respect because, like, he can do it all, basically, is what he showed on that album.
My 24th album is the second iteration of Joey Vantes on the countdown for me. It's Careless, which is his most recent project. Again, I mentioned this before. Dude has crazy work ethic, puts out crazy projects, just work, puts out stuff, drops music. Careless was less like quarantine music type, like creative space, and I think it was creative more as a project, which is why it's a little higher here. Sonically, it's not super different, just because it is more of his style and his delivery, which is great, which is why I love it. Got another Paris feature on it, Paris Chris, super cool. Very, I don't know. I think this one is higher because of the conceptuality of it being a little bit more cohesive.
You can say it's higher because of Tori Deshawn.
Look, you ain't got to call me out like that. Tori Deshawn, put out an album, please, so I can talk about you somewhere. He just does features everywhere. I never get to talk about him. Tori Deshawn, if Tori Deshawn had a project that we could talk about that wasn't Forever Old and wasn't a mixtape, he would probably be my favorite rapper. Meh, behind Aha, but still up there.
I was about to say, it's Tori Deshawn elevates this project to another level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this also, with the cover art of this one, it goes back to the theme of his Legends Never Die, like, kind of concept. So if you look at the cover of Careless and then look at the cover of Legends Never Die, there's a very similar, like, color palette, very similar art style, and then Legends Never Die 1, again, same color palette. There's always fire involved. It's always nighttime, like that type of thing. And so I think conceptually it is a continuation of that. And Quarantine Music was kind of a step out, like not back, just out of that vein. And then this one is a return to the conceptual whatever. So it's an easy listen, 30 minutes. Bars. There's even a song called Bars.
That's true. The only thing I'll say about this one is I really like hearing artists' stories, and because he's kind of smaller, I can't just Google him and kind of pull up his story. But I liked how at the very last track, Farewell, was basically mostly him just telling a story about he was working at some marketing firm, and basically a guy who was a client of his kind of helped point him in a direction of like, are you happy? And he's like, no. And he's like, what do you want to do? He's like, music. And he's like, well, get your financials right and then go do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's dope. Like him being able to like independently fund himself to do his dreams. Like, love that. Like, mad respect.
For sure.
All right. So my next album is the first time this has actually appeared on this list. So I'm excited about this. It's Restoration by Lecrae.
Continuing the CHHC train, man.
So I really like this. I didn't think it was as good as All Things Work Together.
I agree.
But All Things Work Together was insanely good.
It was.
Like just off the wall. However, I do think just if I had to pick one beat between the two albums, the beat I would pick would be the Deep End beat, and it would come from here. Just because that chord, like the hook in Deep End is wild to me. Like I was working on an email and while I was listening to this album and that chorus coming and I just had to like stop. That being said, Deep End is my favorite song. I am only using the regular version. I'm not going to use the deluxe just because I didn't want to listen to the deluxe because I'd have to listen to the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
And honestly, stop the deluxe albums 2K 2021.
But he has a What Up RG feature, so like
I know, and I listened to that because any RG music is a blessing.
Yes.
But I've also been hearing Drown a lot on the radio on like my drives to work early in the morning.
Has John Legend on it, dude. What do you expect? Yeah.
But like I want Deep End or Self Discovery to be on the radio. Those are the songs that not Set Me Free with YK Osiris because I thought that was unnecessary.
I actually like YK Osiris on that
but
track.
like why use YK Osiris when you have Ty?
I mean,
or
that is a very valid point.
Or like
he's just trying to put somebody on, dude.
That's fair.
YK Osiris has a Grammy nomination. You don't need to be put on by anybody.
Why does he have a Grammy nomination? Hold up.
Because he made Worth It.
Okay.
I can give you the world, baby girl.
Oh, no.
You be worth it.
But that Gavi beat on there was fire.
Yeah. Which, like, listening to that song, my head would start moving because, you know, it is Gavi. But then YK Osiris would start, and I'd have to stop and be like, damn. Anyway. I thought that this album was very well put together. I really enjoyed our spoken word section as brought to you by Kirk Franklin. That felt really good. It also gave the album some like tie-ins to this year, because I feel like it was recorded before the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened in June, and I feel like having that get added kind of brought the whole thing to a full circle, and also brought back elements of All Things Work Together very nicely. But I thought it was good. I enjoyed having BJ the Chicago Kid on there, because BJ the Chicago Kid is amazing. But yeah, I really enjoy it, and I hope we talk about it again because I would like to hear others' thoughts. But I enjoyed it. I think it was a very good follow-up to All Things Work Together. Because I didn't think he was going to top that anyway, just because he's not going to top Facts ever, in my opinion.
Yep.
But I enjoyed having him rapping and like just kind of in a bag that you don't usually get from Lecrae.
Let's just keep that train rolling of like, I guess, CHH leaning artists, because my number 24 is Secession by Aha Gazelle and Starringo.
I really thought this would be higher for you.
Me too.
So, I mean, I gave it a 9.2. I also have
still pretty high.
It's still pretty high, right? At this point, with the amount of albums I listened to and graded, like, it's just a matter of like one little tick here and there is going to put an album 5 or 6 spots above it, essentially. Right. But I really like this project a lot. It was a shock drop. We're going to talk about it a lot more. Pretty much the only thing I have to say about it is I want another Starringo project, because I would like to talk about another Starringo project next year, personally. I would also like a full Aha Gazelle project, because I want to talk about that next year. So please drop next year so we can talk about y'all again. And also the song Milk and Honey has one of my favorite bars of 2020, in which they say, throwing up where we from like vomit, essentially like throwing up like a hand sign or quote unquote gang sign or whatever to like rep your city, basically. This is that New Orleans Southern bounce with a twist. And if you haven't gotten into that sound, then you should check out Aha, because he'll give you some of that. And Starringo slaps. That's all I say about Secession for now. We will return to it.
What was the line that you thought that you knew the album was going to be fire? Like, what was the line that like clicked? So I feel like everybody has an exact line where they were like, this is going to be different.
So initially, when they first, I guess we thought initially, we knew there was kind of a project, but we didn't know they were going to drop it that day. But No Limit is the first song, and they put out a single version of it and a video like the night before, and then they just gave us the whole thing the next day, which was crazy. But the line that stuck out to me was during that song, when I first heard that song, was left them on red like October.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because for like to break that line down, like Red Octobers are a shoe designed by Nike and Kanye West, and he's saying, I left this person on red, the message on red, like October. And I was just like, that's just clever. And I was
that whole
wait, is that the only thing you took from that?
Oh no. Like, but that was the bar.
Right, because there's the Drake thing too.
Yeah, no. The whole thing.
Well, that whole section is like red like October. I'm the grandson of Isaiah and Moses, and then it goes on. You can't be like them because you were chosen. And then they got the SpongeBob the donkey vibe from the swamp. Ooh, that's a nice boulder. Talking about donkey from Shrek.
Yeah, no, that
is a nice boulder.
And that was the second batch of bars he was dropping. Because initially, honestly, when he first started, like you see the camera come in and he pushes the camera away with his hands and it somehow moves the camera. And then
pressure
he starts
makes diamonds. You know how we rock it.
Like from that moment on, I was like, oh, this is fire.
If
and then
God
he said,
control, then why he allow it?
Like all of that was like, this is fire. The whole song came out and I was like, this is crazy. And then
you counted me out because you're not good at counting.
Like all of the No Limit blew me away. And then he dropped the whole project and I was like, whoa, hold up. Yeah, whole thing goes crazy. We're going to talk about it again though. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Cool. All right, let me get all right, so my 23 is another pop punk entry. This is the album 2020 by Knuckle Puck. Um, Knuckle Puck is so fun. They're like the closest thing to like pure pop punk, at least to me. Like they don't do anything weird. They don't do anything crazy. They just deliver with high tenor vocals, grungy guitars, and emo lyrics. It's just really good. But this album, I mean, it's called 2020, so you can kind of assume what it's about. Which a lot of music this year was written about it, about the year and about the situation. But it's all just
sure.
it's just like how crazy the year is and how it's really hard to like see what's important and how much it makes you look inside yourself. The cover art with the mirror, there's a mirror being shown to another person with a mirror, and it just like bounces back and forth, just like that introspection image and all that stuff. The song that sticks out to me is Breathe, which has Derek Sanders, which is the lead singer of Mayday Parade, on it. It is it's the middle of the album, and I think it's really important that it's the middle of the album because it's literally just like, don't forget to breathe. Like, you can do all these things, you can work really hard, you can think about, you can do all these things, but don't forget to just stop and breathe. And then track 9, Green Eyes Polarized, is really good. I think that's probably musically the most unique song, and it brings a lot to kind of bring you into the introspection of like what it means to really think about everything as it is right now. I don't know. I really like this album a lot. I didn't listen to it until about a month ago, and I listened to like a ton of pop punk albums just because that's the mood I was in, and I didn't expect to like this as much as I did because my first experience with Knuckle Puck was a cover of the 1975 of their song Chocolate, and I hated it so much. It was terrible.
R.I.P.
I hated
Oh, is that on Pop
cover.
Goes Punk 9?
Yeah, it's on one of them. I don't even know.
Not
Oh,
9,
wow.
not 9. It's on the same one that Set It Off did Problem.
Yeah. It's I did not like it at all. And
Interesting.
so
7?
yeah, I don't know. But they've come a long way from that sound, and I think like even the singer sounds a lot different. Like he's definitely like improved his voice and improved his range and his vocal quality and stuff like that. And so I really liked this album. I've listened to other Knuckle Puck stuff in the past and I've liked it okay, but this is definitely their best work, I think.
All right, so my next album is by Aluna, and it's called Renaissance. And everyone knows Aluna, because this is the artist formerly known as Aluna George. And everyone knows the song You Know You Like It, because You Know You Like It and drives you insane. Phenomenal song, and it deserves all the praise it gets. But this is her like one of her first big like solo projects to get recognition, and it's very good. It's very like light housey, not like a lighthouse, but like light. It's very light feeling, and it's house music. She produced it as well as sings on it, and she's done a bunch of like live streams over the course of the year, just kind of premiering some of these songs. She got Case Renata to do a feature on there, which was absolutely incredible. All of this is another album that'll be very good to like if you have to have a bunch of work to do that's just like monotonous. If you put this on, this will help you get through it and not like be distracting because if it's too aggressive, it just like lends itself to a really good groove. She also got the soft trap god Mr. Carmack to come in and finish off the album with her, and I think that song needs a lot more recognition, because like it is at the end of a 14-track album, and even though some of the songs are pretty short attention spans, but that song is immaculately produced, and I feel like their styles come together very well, and I feel like some of these songs have the opportunity to take over from You Know You Like It as like her most prolific song, because all of these are immaculately written and all of her vocals are on point, and all of just the rhythms and like the way it goes from one song to another is very written with like almost with DJs in mind, because they all have very clear like mix out and mix in points, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, I need to listen to that one because I know you
It's
talked about
really
that in the
good.
podcast before and referenced it. Okay, so then my 23 is revisiting Troye Sivan's "In a Dream." To be honest, this is my favorite thing he's ever done as a project. It is short. I wish it was a little bit longer, but at the same time, I'm a sucker for something that's short and tight and concise. Just the thing that blew me away was honestly the production, because at first, Take Yourself Home starts, and I'm like, all right, sounds like Troye Sivan, cool. And then halfway through, the man stops singing, and just that like EDM beat comes in, and I like fell out of my chair, and I was like, hold up, who is this? Is this a feature? I'm confused now. And the whole rest of the thing from there just flowed and bopped for me. I was like, well, damn, okay. Like, and it's because he basically was like in quarantine in Australia with his parents, and then was working with these like two producers, and so that's why it sounds concise, because it's just three people getting together and making a record, which I think is cool. And he's not working with as many people across the board as he did on other projects, and it also doesn't have a feature. It's literally just him. So I thought that was cool. I also really messed with Rager Teenager. Like, it sounds
That was my favorite song.
yeah, it
Same.
sounds like anything else that he would make, but it also sounds different somehow. I don't know. It's like it's like the thesis of him at his best, in my opinion. But yeah, this bop for me, I gave it a 9.2. I was thoroughly impressed with it as a whole. And I'm honestly looking forward to what he does next. He did a lot of cool marketing with this project and doing music videos from like his house, but it looked like he wasn't at his house. It was crazy. So looking forward to the next full length, given how good of quality this was and how much I think it pushed him as an artist.
Cool. My 22 is Birth by Sleep by
Yo.
Wilson. Yeah. Actually, and
Yo.
he is actually no longer known as Wilson. He's going by Jack Asher now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the third time he's changed his name.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about that. I think that he is an artist that is kind of struggling to find his space. This project, I'm glad that I rated it when I did, because I think if I rated it now, it would not be as high. Because thinking about like the situations surrounding everything, and like he's put out deluxe editions and some other stuff, and he's teased a couple of things and dropped some singles on SoundCloud, and there's just not a lot of consistency and cohesion, and I struggle to see like the direction of where he's going as an artist, which I don't want to talk about this too much because the focus is on the album, but I do wonder where he'll go. Anyway, Birth by Sleep is really cool because it's this concept of like it pairs really well with like his imagery of Kingdom Hearts, and the picture itself plus the song like Keyblade Graveyard is there, and they have a bunch of interpolations of like voice lines from the game and ideas from the game of like the Heartless and defeating the Heartless and stuff like that. Has several uncredited features. Virum Rex track 14 is probably my favorite track, and it has an uncredited Joey Vantes feature on it, and he kills that song, absolutely murders it. And yeah, the only thing that takes away from this album is like the longer I sit with it and the longer I listen to it, the more I'm like, this is actually kind of just a Travis Scott album.
That's my complaint about it, is some of it feels like he just listened to Astroworld and then just copied and pasted it.
Yeah. He did.
It's like the song where he yells "switch."
And I know he likes Travis Scott a lot.
He does. He's a very large musical influence on him.
But there's like a point where like you have to wonder where you're going. This is why I think that he's in this space where he's struggling to just define where he's gonna go as an artist. Cause like he put himself into this lane early on, and now it's hard to get out of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've listened, some of his singles he did on SoundCloud are really good. He put out one right after George Floyd died that was about that, and he actually like rapped a lot, which is not something we had heard a ton from him. Like straight up rapping, you know what I mean? Because he had done a lot of that Travis Scott vocal like auto-tune type rap stuff. But yeah, I think that if he's able to define where he's going to go as an artist, he'll be really great. Because I think he has a lot of concept in his head and a lot of really cool ideas. And this album, like I said, having graded it or thought about it when it came out, I loved it when it came out. But then like the more I listen to it, the less and less I feel convinced that this is actually like the best thing he could do, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like he's definitely on his journey of finding himself as an artist and just the come up as a whole.
And and he's a younger artist, so like
he's young and small.
Plenty of time to think about it and to work within it. I mean, there's a couple of other people that are coming up at the same time. I mean, like, oh gosh, what is his name? Kyle, not Kyle. Is it Kyle?
Oh, not Clyde?
Yeah, not Clyde, him. I know they've done a couple of things together.
Mm-hmm.
They have some, I know Not Clyde has an uncredited feature here, and Jack Asher, formerly known as Wilson, I guess, is on a couple of Not Clyde songs. So I don't know. I like the album initially and graded it very well. And so it's pretty high, but I think it would be at least probably a couple slots lower. Now it would still be on the list for sure, but it would be somewhere else, I think. But overall, I mean, really good project. Still definitely worth a listen.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you like the kind of music that Travis Scott puts out, like you'll like this. Like there's no doubt about that you'll enjoy it.
If you ever needed Kingdom Hearts rap, like,
yeah.
If you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, like that, it's fun to listen to.
Yeah, and so I like it. It's just I'm interested to see where he goes.
Yeah.
All right, so next up for me is actually a side project by Odessa and Golden Features called Bronson. And it is their first release of the side project, also Bronson by Bronson. So Odessa makes some of the most beautiful electronic music known to man. And they kind of really just held everybody together. But they were like, we're going to go take a break and not make any more music for a bit because we've worked really hard. And they did this really great tour where if you ever get a chance, please go and listen to or watch their intro. They brought out a full drum line and the lights are just impeccable and it's just a work of art. But they were like, after they finished that run, which included a stop at Hangout, they were like, we're going to take a break. And then over the summer, it was announced that they had started a side project with a producer from Australia, and they released the first couple songs, and it was like very like party housey, and it's very well produced. It's very dark though. And that kind of took me by surprise because Odessa is usually known for like bright sounds and like happiness and like not warehouse rave music almost, and some of this kind of delves into that, which I think is really cool. My favorite song comes later on in the album at track 8, which is Contact. And Contact has the best breakdown that I think they've ever written. And it comes at the end after just two very solid like house drops, and then the song just kind of progresses into this really slow halftime trap thing, and it makes me really happy. So definitely check this out. If you are in, like, it's mood music for a very specific type of mood. So And it's not a mood that you'll really know is coming. It just kind of happens, and then this album can like really hit different. It's really, really good.
Dope.
All right, my number 22 is the last iteration of Everything Means Nothing by Black Bear. He returns for the third time. I think this is our first three-peat we've had this season thus far. But I think this is his most balanced project in the sense that lengthwise, it's perfect. It's not, like any of his short EPs, like Cashmere Noose and Bleach, but it's also not. His last project was really long, like 18 tracks, like an hour or so. Anonymous, that was the name of it. This is sitting right in the middle, 12 songs, 37 minutes, and it's balanced by the sound of years past, of the darkness, but then also sound of like I'm happy and things like that. So
Dad.
and yeah, and I'm a dad. Like it's interesting because it's so, you really find that like very late into an artist's catalog, because like he's albums and projects in by this point, that you find an album that I think can both appeal to newcomers and old heads that are fans of this artist. And because like you can show this to someone, they say, who's Black Bear? I'm gonna toss them this and Dead Roses. Like, there you go, that's who Black Bear is in a nutshell. And then go explore all of his other things that are a little bit more niched or conceptual or something like that. But I really enjoyed this project. I really loved the run of I Feel Bad, I Feel Too Much, and I Felt That. Like, just from a typography standpoint and a thematic standpoint. And those three are my favorite songs on the entire album. Like, really, really love that little three-peat run going on there. I also really like Sobbing on Cabo a lot too. That's another good one that's kind of in the same thematic sad space as these are. But once again, it's Black Bear. He doesn't make bad music. It's kind of just interesting to see where his sound goes and where his career goes. And as we said recently, like, he's at the most commercial point he's ever been at right now, I think, coming off of the success of Hot Girl Bummer, being popular on TikTok, and continue to just write and produce and be featured on so many other tracks that like are grabbing people's attention besides us, because we all love Black Bear here, but maybe people who aren't as hooked onto him just yet. But shout out Bear. We'll hopefully probably talk about him again next year if he drops another project. Just he's staying in the stew, so we'll see where he goes.
Mansions 2.
Mansions 2. Make it happen, please.
All right, so my last album for this episode, number 21, is the album Walls by Louis Tomlinson, one of the alumni of One Direction. He's the first of three of them that are going to be on my list. So this album shocked me utterly, completely took me by surprise. I initially listened to some of Harry Styles' work, and then by extension listened to some of One Direction's later stuff, and it was like, well, maybe I should listen to the other people's stuff. So I jumped into all of the solo pieces, and this is the one that shocked me the most. It's the most recent release. Like, he did not come out with a project directly after One Direction like Harry did and like Niall did and like Zayn did. He took a little bit longer for a lot of different reasons. He had some issues with his label and some other stuff. But this album is incredibly vulnerable. It's incredibly heartfelt. There's a lot of emotion in it. And this album is kind of the first entry into a lot of the things that made my top 10. And I know we're not there yet, but like, this emotion and level of like vulnerability in the lyricism is really what made me really like this album. So like, track 3, it's Two of Us, he wrote right after his mom died, and it's literally about like living life for the two of them. It's insane how much emotion is packed into this album for being 39 minutes. there's a lot of like connections that people have drawn to some of the things in this album, to some of the things in some of the One Direction songs, to some of the stuff in Harry's music, and some of the stuff in some of the other solo stuff. Like there's just all this interpolation of like, well, some of it might have been written during the time when they were all together, some of it might have been like labbed and then shelved and then brought back out. There's just all this interplay of all that stuff, as well as a gajillion other things happening to them. But I think Louis, he's not the strongest singer, but he, in my opinion, has one of the most unique sounds of any of them, as far as like vocals go. And that puts him in this place where if you really like him, you really, really like him. And if you don't like him, you probably won't. Like, if you don't like the way his voice sounds, you probably will not be able to really get into his music. But he has a very devoted fan base, and people love him. The people that love him really love him. And I really think the vulnerability of it really made it for me. The lyrics and the artist growth were my two biggest categories. Because, like, to me, like, seeing this album come out of One Direction is the growth for me. Because this was his first solo piece. And so, like, I don't know. It really took me by surprise. I did not expect to like it at all. But I did. So
I had to listen to this then.
It's gonna feel like Kill My Mind, the first track, is my least favorite song. A lot of people love it, but I don't think it's necessarily the best song on the project. But once you get into the more emotional stuff, it's very interesting. Also, the last track, Only the Brave, is it's only like a minute or something like that, but it's so interesting. A minute 46. It sounds like he takes lyrics from like a bunch of different places and just pieces them together. Like they don't sound like they go together. And so it's almost like this like patchwork of a song that also feels like it needs to go for longer because it just ends like abruptly. But it's cool. I really like this project.
Oh yeah. All right, so my last album for this episode is going to be from our favorite noise rap group, Clipping.
Let's go.
So, Visions of Body. All right, so Clipping is not for the faint of heart. If you are coming expecting intricate music and like beautiful melodies and tinkling pianos and like Mike Will made it style, just like vibes, you should not listen to Clipping. They make some of the most sonically aggressive music I think in the history of mankind. And this album is no exception. I know it's like ironic that I'm spending so much time talking about how they live up to the definition of the name noise rap, where most of the time Dovey Diggs is just kind of rapping over sounds. That my favorite song is Check the Lock, which has the most groove in the album. To me, I do think that listening to an album like this is very interesting, just with what music, how you can define music, because it is something that is rather cacophonous and could cause debate over what is actually music, because sometimes he's rapping over like tunnel wind and somebody throwing rocks at a sewer that don't particularly bounce in any time. And like there's nothing wrong with that, but people are going to be like, this is not music, this is just sounds, and he is saying words fast. But there's like music, there's like a really odd musicality that I also haven't explored the genre of noise rap like I probably should have, but I just feel like there's something very intriguing and interesting about this group of people that are all obviously very musically inclined, but that would just take random sounds and be like, here, rap over this. I just think that's so interesting. Yeah. That is Visions of Body. They're also the only people I know that would put an 18-minute song, not on this album, but an 18-minute track of just sounds of a piano being lit on fire and then burning to the ground. And then that is the whole song. Honestly, it's very peaceful, but it's just an odd listen.
Jesus. I like that song though. I listened to it recently.
Too.
I was like, this is great. It's straight up a piano on fire. That's it. But I loved it.
It's so nice to fall asleep to at the end. It's like it's a vibe. Letting you down very slowly.
Yeah, it's a vibe. All right. My number 21 is Placement by Watsky. Oh. So this is a spiritual.
That came out this year.
It did.
This year has been so long.
I mean, yeah, it came out back in March, so it's been a while.
Oh, man.
But it is the sequel or part 2 of what he's proposed to be a 3-part series in which he is naming these 3 albums with 9 different letters. I forget what the third. He's said what the third one is going to be called a long time ago, but I forget what it's going to be. The first one was called Complaint from last year, and we talked about that one. I liked Complaint a lot, but I think I like Placement better as a whole. I gave this a 9.2. I think he's incredibly talented. He's a great poet. He's a great rapper. He's a great artist. The fact, too, that this year he broke the world record for longest continuing rap by it was some crazy ass
33 hours.
33 hours of just rapping with a couple of he would get breaks here and there, but there's rules to this. Go to Guinness though. He broke the record. That was impressive. So it's a big year for him. And I just really liked this project a lot. Undermine is incredible. Also Dreams in Boxes, tracks 4 and 5 together, really just are powerful for me. But I definitely think it'd be interesting that once the third one comes out to then go back to Complaint and run that whole ish back, because it's going to be another 9 songs. So 9 times 3?
27.
It's going to give you 27 track super album, basically. I'm really going to be curious to see how the story that he's telling interweaves itself through that narrative.
Dude, his musical evolution has been insane.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Truly a gifted guy.
Truly.
But that brings us to the end of the 3rd episode of our 2020 Top 50 Albums of the Year countdown. We just recounted albums 30 through 21. So come back next time to catch 20 through 11, because right about now things are about to get crazy. It's getting tight. I mean, I left off on a 9.2, so we're picking up at 9.3 and we're going to 10 by the end of this thing. So let's see who scores the highest. Thank you for listening to Wrapped. You can listen to every album we've included in our top 50 lists by visiting our Spotify account from the link on our website and checking out our playlist tied to each host. Remember, you can get behind the scenes and additional content by following us on social media via Instagram @Wrapped Podcast or Twitter @Podcast Wrapped, or email us musical suggestions via wrappedpodcast@gmail.com. You can view our videos on YouTube or listen to episodes on any music or podcast player. Lastly, Wrapped is hosted by Colton Hinderliter, Ryan Key, and Adam Stansell, with show artwork by Autumn Salazar. See you all next time on Wrapped.